More than 500,000 people disappear without a trace every year. But in 2009, something even stranger happened. A man appeared. No identity. No past. No record of where he came from. A ghost in plain sight. His name, or at least the name he gave, was Peter Bergmann. But Peter Bergmann never existed. This is one of the greatest internet mysteries of all time. On a quiet June afternoon in 2009, a man arrived in Sligo, Ireland, stepping off a bus with slow, measured movements. He was tall, lean, and dressed in a dark suit, carrying himself with an air of quiet determination. His gray hair was neatly combed back, his sharp features betraying no emotion. He blended into the background, like someone designed to be unnoticed. At the front desk of the Sligo City Hotel, he introduced himself as Peter Bergmann, speaking in a calm and polite manner. He paid in cash for 3 nights. No credit card, no reservation, no hesitation. His only piece of luggage was a small, battered black bag, which looked far too light for a man seemingly on an extended stay. When asked for an address, he provided one in Vienna, Austria. But later, investigators would discover a chilling truth. This address did not exist.
He used a false name. He certainly used a false address. There are no passports, or have been no passports issued to a male of that name, fitting that description or that age profile, anywhere in mainland Europe.
Everything about him was normal. Until you looked closer. Because Peter Bergmann wasn't just another traveler. He was a man in the process of vanishing. Over the next 3 days, CCTV footage captured him walking through Sligo's quiet streets, always carrying a purple plastic bag. He walked with purpose, never lingering, never appearing lost. But something strange stood out. Every time he left the hotel, the bag was full. Every time he returned, it was empty. Investigators believe he was systematically discarding his belongings, piece by piece, throughout the town. But no one ever saw him dispose of anything. No ID, no passport, no credit cards, no phone, no digital footprint. Irish authorities combed through immigration records. There was no record of his arrival in the country. It was as if he had simply materialized out of thin air. He visited the post office and purchased 8 international stamps. Who were they for? What did he send? No letters were ever traced back to him. At one point, he stopped at a barbershop for a haircut. The barber later recalled how unremarkable he seemed. Polite, quiet, but forgettable. Yet, this was a man who had erased every trace of himself, moving through the world like a ghost. On his final day, he checked out of his hotel and walked to a nearby cafe. He ordered a cappuccino and a sandwich and took a seat near the window. A witness saw him take a piece of paper from his pocket. He unfolded it slowly, his eyes scanning its contents. For minutes, he just stared, unmoving. Then, with precise, deliberate movements, he tore it into tiny pieces and let them drift into the trash. By the time he stood up to leave, the note and whatever final message it contained was lost forever. That afternoon, Peter Bergmann boarded a bus to Ross's Point Beach, a secluded stretch of coastline where the wild Atlantic meets rolling Irish hills. The ride was uneventful, passengers later recalling nothing unusual about the quiet, gray-haired man staring out the window. He stepped off the bus and walked toward the shore. The wind was brisk, the sky tinged with the deep orange hues of an approaching sunset. He took off his shoes, dangling them in one hand, as his bare feet pressed into the damp sand. For hours, he paced the shoreline, back and forth, his gaze fixed on the restless waves. He seemed deep in thought, as if waiting for something or someone. At 10:50 p.m., under the cold glow of the moon, he was still there, a lone figure on an empty beach, his form a silhouette against the crashing waves. A passerby approached him, asking if he was all right. He smiled, said he was fine. Then he turned back to the sea and kept walking. The next morning, the beach was cloaked in thick mist as a father and son took an early stroll. The air was crisp, the world silent except for the distant cries of seabirds. Then, through the fog, they spotted something in the sand. At first, they thought it was a discarded mannequin. But as they got closer, reality set in.
Something like almost something from a shop window, like a mannequin that was in the sand. And of course, as I got closer, I realised it was actually a person, and that he seemed to have drowned. That was a little shock for the system.
I suppose in a way you go into autopilot mode and do what you have to do, you know, alert the Gardaí.
Peter Bergmann lay face down, just beyond the waterline. His body still, his skin cold. He was dressed in a navy t-shirt and black underwear, nothing else. His neatly folded clothes sat nearby, placed with an almost ritualistic care. And then came the strangest detail of all. The police assumed he had drowned. But the autopsy told a different story. No water in his lungs. No signs of struggle or injury. No medical bracelets, no tattoos, no scars. Nothing that could identify him. His cause of death? Acute cardiac arrest. His heart had simply stopped, likely just moments before he could disappear into the sea. If not for that, he would have vanished forever. After his death, investigators desperately searched for answers. The name Peter Bergmann was fake. The Vienna address he provided didn't exist. His belongings, his bag, his personal effects, the contents of that purple plastic bag were never found. It was as if he had been systematically erasing himself, preparing for a death that no one was supposed to witness. Who was he? A terminally ill man choosing to die alone? Fugitive escaping his past? A former spy erasing himself before it was too late? Or something else entirely? We may never know. In a world where we are constantly tracked, by cameras, by bank records, by digital footprints, how is it possible for someone to simply disappear? And yet, Peter Bergmann did exactly that. He vanished not once, but twice. First in life, and then in death. And in doing so, he ensured one thing: he will never be forgotten. If this story intrigued you, like and share it. Stories like these take time to uncover. Subscribe to Darkly Wired and turn on notification for more deep dives into real-life mysteries, unsolved disappearances, and the forgotten stories. Share your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. A huge thank you to our amazing subscribers for your support. You help keep these stories alive. Stay safe, stay curious, and stay wired. I'll see you next time.